All right, is it time for home game stuff?
It is time for Homegames Stuff.
Do you want to start with home game stuff?
Sure. So this week, yesterday, went on a journey, magical journey, emotional, has highs and lows. It has me going crazy a little bit. But I recorded about 2 hours of me making a game on Homegames, and as Joseph and I have kind of mentioned, what we wanted to do was have a new piece of content where we make a game together with the audience watching. Not together. We make a game separately that the audience watches us write the code for. We didn't come up with a name for it, so I just named it Let's Make a Game Together Using Homegames. I made a game.
Yeah?
I made some amount of a game.
It's like it's not like a complete game.
No, it is not complete. I ended up running into some stuff, and I have some questions for you. But that's like the overarching idea is that I did do it.
And this is the color tag game?
It is the color tag game. So right now, the way it works is everyone spawns into the map, and then there's 3 seconds where no one is the tagger, and then suddenly somebody is the tagger, but nobody knows who it is. So
okay.
Part of the problem is I need to give a pop-up to the person who is the tagger.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, I need to have a pop-up to say, like, when everybody is in the game, press this button and we'll pick a tagger.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to give that to player one. I need to, once that button is pressed, then I need to alert the tagger that they are the tagger. No one else knows who the tagger is.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be kind of funny. And then the last thing I need to figure out is how everybody who is tagged knows which piece they are. Because right now they change color.
Mm-hmm.
So we have like 8 red squares roaming the map. Who is who?
Oh, okay.
What I want to do is add vision to this game so that you can only see a couple blocks ahead of you, and then like if you're tagged, maybe you see some more blocks. But maybe not. I think it'd be kind of funny if you were hiding the whole time and suddenly you see like a red square go by. Red isn't the tagged square, by the way. The tagged square color is the color for whoever is marked as the tagger. So it could be like blue or red or green or yellow, whatever. Just not black or gray. But yeah,
just do random colors, make it even more confusing. Colors.random color every time.
There is color.random color. Oh, and just
joke.
Even
Don't do
them
that.
do overlaps in the beginning. That'd be too complicated.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I want to add vision so that you can at least know who you are. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Figure this out
So where did it go wild for you?
Where it went wild for me was when I switched to the Homegames core collision detection stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with it is it detected if edges are touching.
Yes.
As a collision. Which doesn't work because that was
If I do that, that's a collision.
Yeah. But the way it was working in the move test is that it doesn't actually allow you to move into that square if there would be a collision, which is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to add in, and even then, I want you to be able to enter the same. I want you to be next to another player or terrain. I just don't want you to be on top of another player or terrain.
Yeah, you could be.
Yeah, I added.
Oh, you're talking about like zero distance.
I need you to be able to be zero
to
distance.
touch something.
To touch something.
Got it. Okay. Got it.
So what I ended up having to do was change the collision detector to add in a severity of collision number. So now instead of just returning the node in an array, it returns an object containing node and then like an indicator for severity of touch.
How do you indicate severity?
So basically the way I did severity was how many sides are touching. So if there's a collision and 0 sides are touching, then you are on top of the other square. If it's 1 side touching, then you're okay. If it's 2 sides touching, you're okay. If it's 3 sides touching, something weird is going on, and that's not okay.
What about non-rectangle?
Yeah, the problem is that all of our logic in collision is based on rectangles.
At the moment, yeah.
At the moment.
What if
basically I pulled apart the or operators, because it's like if this is less than this, or if this is less tthen this, and then there's like there's 4 comparisons. I just do a subtraction, right? Because I just need to know what the distance is between the sides. It's like if any of the sides are, then you have like a range of what fits, right? Because you'd have like if 0 sides are touching, but there is a collision, they're on top of each other. If one side is touching, but there is a collision, then that's okay. If it's 2 sides, that's okay too. If it's 3, maybe not okay, so on and so forth. And it's up to the game then to handle, to
figure out what to do
with that severity number, to figure out how they want to handle it.
What if it gave you the overlapping area of the shapes? That seems more like
the overlapping area.
Yeah.
So if they're touching, the B area would be 0.
Yes, but it is still touching. Like I can be like my atom on my arm can be just barely touching the atom on yours. The overlap is 0, but we're touching.
Yes.
I could be I could reach my whole hand in you, and the overlap is my hand.
Interesting. That might be a little bit more complicated to figure out.
Yeah, it's more math, but I guess my thing is, it isn't super clear that severity ABC translates to sides 1, 2, 3. It's kind of like
I didn't call it severity. I think right now it's number of. I think it's. I think it's whatever value I called it. It was something about vertices, but it's really, I need to change that to sides in contact. Yeah.
Okay, and then because we do have shapes, like on the shape test, I have a weird triangle inverted thing. So I wonder how we would do these kinds of things, where if I had kind of like a thing like this and another thing kind of going into it, and it would be touching like 2 sides at the bottom, you know what I mean?
Interesting. Unsure. Luckily my game is just a grid, so I don't have to worry about like half stepping and stuff like that. And I actually at several points in the recording myself, I had to open up Paint and draw out the rectangles to figure out what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that it does need some work, but that was like my big hang up, was figuring out that I needed that collision detection, 2, figuring out how I wanted to handle that, and 3 of just like figuring out like what. So that was like an hour or more of
yeah. Did you enjoy the recording it? I haven't seen it, by the way.
Yeah. So it starts and I'm super nervous, and then like somewhere in between the begin, like somewhere in this thing, I become comfortable, and you can kind of tell I'm much more loose and like chill.
Yeah. And
then at the end, you can really see that I'm becoming like frayed a little bit. I'm like, fuck, this isn't working. And I think at the end, I'm just basically like, this is super scuffed. Like, all right, if you care at all, like leave a like or whatever. Check us out on Homegames.
Oh, did you hit him with a like, comment, subscribe?
I said like leave a comment or a like or whatever, and then I really don't remember my exit on this thing, but like
you kind of blacked out and did like the old podcast.
Yeah. A little, yeah. I definitely had a lot of the like old school podcast vibes, except that there wasn't like another person for me to like
bounce off,
chill with.
Yeah.
It was more like I'm here and trying to like write code in front of some number of viewers.
Yeah. Do you think it works? I guess just from like, did you enjoy doing it? Do you think it was kind of a good thing for you to like a good use of your time, basically?
Yeah. So I think that it helps me focus. I think that I need to chill a bit.
Don't we all?
I also think that it is great practice for me, because I am very anxious around doing stuff that other people are going to watch me do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's a good thing. It's kind of like when you're doing a job interview and someone's watching you write code, and you know they're judging you, and you're just like, oh God.
I definitely had I'm about to do a job interview panic set in right before I hit the record button.
Yeah.
And I was super nervous, and you can tell from my intro.
Yeah.
I like literally rehearsed the first 5 minutes of the intro, and then when I hit that record button, it all just disappeared, and I was like,
Yeah, that's how it goes.
But yeah, I think it was beneficial. I think it was pretty good. I think that the end result is a piece of a game, the majority of a game that works.
Nice.
That should be pretty fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. When I was thinking of how I wanted to do mine, I was thinking I would do like basically a lot of prep work of like, here's my design for the game, here's the components I need to write for it, here is this kind of stuff, and I would kind of break it into chunks. But I think maybe just like freeballing it like that might also be good. I don't really know. I guess I'd have to see your video to be like, that was great.
Yeah,
you know?
so I'll put it out this week. I'll probably put it up tomorrow or today, depending on what time I get back from my walk.
Yeah.
It just totally messed up our release schedule. But at any rate, yeah. I will just put out the whole 2 hours this time, but I definitely think we should just chunk them better. I think you're right about like maybe like 30-minute increments and like really doing it. Basically, I knew what I wanted to do and that I needed to start with the square code, trim it down. It's like I basically like walk people through at the very beginning. Like I was like, I'm gonna take the square code, trim it down, modify it to our new game, make sure that works, then do a refactor because there's some stuff I want to clean up in there, like using the inbuilt player array instead of having my own player array that's maintained. And just like little things like that. But then I needed to use the collision detection. That's like a big rework piece that I wanted to switch to, and it did remove like 100 lines of code or something. So it's like really nice. So it makes the game like even shorter than it already was.
Nice. Yeah. Also, the collision detection is like, I think it's a weird interface. You got to give it a node that doesn't necessarily exist and just see if they would collide at these 2 points. It's weird. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on how you want to do that. You can also just change it in this pull request.
Well, I made changes to add that severity stuff to it, but I'm okay with passing it in like a coordinate and a whole ass node. I think is important. I think your filter function is in reverse to JavaScript's regular filter function, though.
What do you mean?
I think your filter function is if it's true, it's filtered out, as opposed to if it's true, it's left in the array.
Oh, maybe that's the case.
Which I noticed, and I was like, I'm not dealing with this in the middle of all this other stuff going on.
Yeah, it might be flipped like that. I could make it more conventional, whatever the correct convention is.
Or it's not. Yeah, I think it is the reverse. But there were some collision questions I had for you, and just a question in general.
Sure.
Why is a node colliding with itself?
Because, so what do you mean? Like, are you saying when you pass A and B being the same node? Because, I mean...
Sorry, hold on. I'm actually stupid.
Because by definition, it would, like, if it's overlapping itself, it is colliding.
Yeah, and there's actually logic in your collision detection. If the node IDs match up, they're ignored.
Yeah.
You have a pre-filter condition.
Yeah, it's kind
But
of...
you also have that in your move test collision detection as part of the filter in there. So I just need to remove that from there.
Yeah, I think the move test predates the collision detection stuff that I did. So I maybe left that in as like an old remnant of that. But I don't think it needs to be there. But yeah, I remember... I think the interface for that is you give it a node and then another node, and it'll check if any node within the root, like using this node as a root, it'll traverse the subtree and see if anything collides with it except for the filters. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. So then if I have a node that exists as a child of, like, say I pass it the entire game root, this node would collide with itself because it's on top of itself, whatever it would check against itself. So we need to have a check of if it's not me, then it's colliding with something.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it does have that check built in, and I'm just stupid, and I only realized that right now.
You are not stupid. You were simply reading an example that was outdated.
The next question: why does a node have both color and fill?
Great question. I don't know.
Which one of those is the actual important value?
Fill. But okay. So fill is the thing that gives you a practical color, like the actual color of the thing. Color is required because I don't have a check for it on the client. It basically assumes there's always a color. So I need to do some of that stuff. That's actually one thing I was working on is with my objectification stuff. So I have I think I already have a branch up for it.
You do.
Yeah.
I have to review it, and I saw you tag me with hello, and I was
that
like,
was on the other one.
I'm not doing this right now. I'm in the middle of something.
Well, there was the other one. It was like a 2-week-old. Anyway, so anyway, the objectification thing I have where you can just pass color, or you pass fill, or you pass whatever. You can selectively pass your parameters like that. So in that, I need to update so not having a color doesn't break it.
I see.
Because I don't know why.
Would it be possible to have the color as the outline of the shape? And
that is what it is. Fill? That is what it is.
Does it actually work that way?
I think so.
Yes. So the reason I'm asking that is because that would actually be perfect for color tag, because I could leave your outline your color originally, and your inside could be the color of the tag.
You should look at the dashboard, because the dashboard has that scroll bar, and that scroll bar has a border on it. So I don't remember how I implemented that, but that is that.
Yeah, I was also going to pull the modal out of that dashboard when you open up a new.
I was looking at the dog food on the floor.
Oh yeah, my dog has a Kong toy that I put food into, and then she knocks it around and eats it off the floor.
Yeah. Anyway, just sorry to meet it.
No, you're good. I was concerned there was like a moth or something in here.
He's deathly afraid of moths.
I am. Whatever I was talking about, we'll just say it's.
Border.
Oh yeah. So I'll look at the border stuff. I need to pull out the modal code. I actually, before I started writing this, I knew I needed a modal, and I thought about maybe just making a common core, like a utility, to make a modal node.
Yes, we need a lot of common utilities.
Yeah,
this is something that maybe we could talk about when we do our Unity episode, which I think is still planned at some point.
Yeah, I just need to know like a little bit ahead of time.
Yeah,
not this weekend because we're participating in a tournament, so I don't think he's gonna.
Yeah, well, maybe no, 50 is special, so maybe 51.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we need a lot of common utilities. I was working on the city clicker stuff a little bit yesterday with JC, and kind of just giving me input on what I should be doing and stuff like that, colors and stuff like that, like all the look of the city clicker is basically all JC, and stuff like that. So anyway, I ran into this bug. I rebased the city clicker on top of the change in Homegames Master to filter out the stuff in the squisher before sending it to people. And I realized that interface for hiding and showing game nodes is super nasty. So, she's fine. Basically, I ran into this bug where I was adding and removing players to and from nodes. And because the logic is kind of magical that says if the list is empty, it's a public node. If the list has a 0 at the front, it's an invisible node. If the list has numbers, those are all player IDs. That is how the actual data is read and retrieved. But I don't want that to be the direct interface for making something invisible or not, because I ran into this bug where I would have one view, two views initialized as invisible. Take one player and add it to another view. So I would have to remove him from the first one and then make it invisible again, which means I would need to take the list of 0, remove the 0, add the player ID. When I remove that player ID from the view, need to check if the list would be empty, because if it will be empty, then I'm not going to try to make it public. So I need to add a 0 back. Shit like that. So I had a bug where basically moving between views would get you stuck in one view because one became public, and there's this whole dumb thing. Yeah. It took me 20 minutes to figure it out. So kind of along the same lines of needing a common thing of tools, I want to show a modal here. Oh, I want to have a thing that just makes it an invisible node. Make a public node. That should be easier to do than just.
I think we also want getters and at least setters for our node properties, because having to go node.node.node.color and node.node.node.fill was actually
it's not node.node, it's node.node.color.
It is that. Yeah, I didn't want an extra node there.
So one thing I was thinking of is you could have a setter, but I feel just kind of goes against JavaScript, but it would also make it easier for us to do the listener stuff. We wouldn't have to have the weird listenable proxy object thing. But what we can also do is on each of the constructors for the .shape.text.asset, do a set property on myself, everything on the node. It's kind of hacky, but basically have a list of these are the node properties, run through the list and set my property to be the one on the node, so we can avoid the .node thing. You can always access .node directly, but as a convenience, you put it.
Yeah. I think the reason I wanted the setter in there was because it feels weird to just be I'm just altering internal class information, which, I mean, you're right, that is a JavaScript thing, you can do whatever, wherever, but I do think we might want to just implement slightly more object-oriented design, or we're going to really have problems probably down the line.
Maybe. Yeah.
Because it works for you and me because we know where I was okay, if I log out the node here, I know what I'm looking for. But if you don't, and it's just here's an array, you're not going to know what that array indicates.
Yeah, I think it needs that whole interface is definitely better than it was 6 months ago, which was better than it was a year ago, but it's still not where it should be.
Not yet.
I don't really know what the correct answer is. I don't know if I want to do setters because that feels it feels like Java. Anything with a setter feels like Java to me. And I've been writing some Java lately outside of this stuff, and I like the freedom of JavaScript is not that, but whatever, that's a personal thing. So I guess I don't really know what the correct way to go forward is, but yeah, that's something to think about.
We could have setters on there, which would be nice, but we could always just not use them. Like, I think it's optional if I use a setter or not.
That might be confusing though for people, because then it's like, what's our suggestion? Like,
our suggestion, if you don't know what you're doing, is to use the setter.
But you don't. I guess it feels confusing for me to say, yeah, we wrote these setters, you should use the setters, but you don't have to use the setters. It's like, well, if I'm trying to learn, what do I do?
I don't think we would say, but you don't have to use those setters. I think if somebody who knows JavaScript is out there and is like, oh, this is just an object, I can do whatever I want to it.
Yeah, but I think that's the ultimate knowledge of what you're trying to get to, right? Like, if you're learning and you realize, oh, this is an object, these people added setters. It's like a training wheel that we hope that you get rid of.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
So the reason I think that it's a better idea is because it's more clear, and also if people are maybe used to an object-oriented language like Java or like C or like that family of languages, it would be an easier transition over. But I mean, we don't have to. It felt like something that would make life possibly easier.
It would certainly allow us to have more optimization stuff too, because like at the moment, every object is wrapped in this listener, which just looks at the property that you changed and then triggers some update event, which is kind of not always necessary. Like, if I update I'm trying to think of something.
The node ID.
I don't know when we ever would do that, but yeah, I guess it is an example. If we update the node ID, we don't want it to update because that doesn't have any material impact on anything other than the internal guts. So we can kind of handle that better. I don't know enough about where I think all this stuff is going to be eventually, but at the moment, I'm just thinking we would have more control over what updates trigger callbacks and stuff.
I agree.
Yeah, instead of having a magic dot anything triggers an update.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would help us. The other thing too is like, at a certain level of like advanced user, they could probably just add additional properties. Like, I add an additional property to the nodes, right? Like, I say if that node is tagged or not. So I mean, like, having setters there is more of like a stopgap between understanding that you can do whatever you want and kind of cleanliness in the code.
Yeah, maybe that is the right way to go. I obviously something to think about or whatever, but yeah, not done yet.
No,
we just keep saying that forever. It's not done.
I mean, kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was it for me, though.
Cool. Oh no, Alex beat one of my scores.
Kill him.
I'll get him when I get home. Me and Alex are in a competition, Geometry Wars 3, and he finally beat one of my scores. So now something inside of me is raging to destroy him. So anyway, like I said, worked on the Click City stuff. Got very, very basic progress on that. Got it working with all the rebase stuff on Master. And I introduced the concept of criticals. So you basically get a chance to hit a critical whenever you click. And you can pay to upgrade that chance, so it starts at 1% and increases linearly, so it doesn't have the scaling. None of this.
Oh, you mean in the game? I thought you were like, this is how we're gonna make money. I was like, what?
No, yeah, it's just like I said, still the clicker game. Still really haven't fleshed out the city side of it, but added the idea. So when you click, there is a 1% chance, or you can increase it, chance to hit a critical, which will do 3x damage. The kind of basic thing. Also added a stats menu. So there's stats on the side. It shows you how many times you've clicked, how many enemies you've killed, your current attack power, your current critical chance. And basically ran into some trickiness there. I guess I don't want to go too into specifics, but essentially it's text where the label does not change, but the value constantly changes. You know what I mean? Like attack power is there, the value will change.
Yeah.
Kills constantly changes. So the old way to do this would be like clear children. Just on a tick, clear the children and rewrite the children. Look at the current stats and write new text nodes. Clear out the text nodes, write new text nodes. You could also update the text directly, which is what I actually want to be doing. But when I do that, I basically need a way to the text is formatted. It's label value. So it's not one node, it's actually two. I can make it one, but then it's tricky. How do I get just enough spaces in this to make it look correct? I don't know how that like scales or does anything, right? Like, yeah, it's just weird. So I need basically two nodes, key value, for as a child of this menu, and I just update text instead of clearing the children, because at the moment the text is constantly flickering because I'm removing and adding, remove every second multiple times. So it's just it's like it's terrible looking. So I just need a way to basically this is a basic problem, right? I just need to display text and update some of it consistently.
Yeah.
But I don't have a good way to do that. It's kind of one of the things we talked about where like we just find basic gaps in the tooling because we haven't yet hit specific problems, but this is one of them. So I need a good performant way to track these text nodes and update just the ones. I can do all of this kind of within the game itself and just create some map to nodes and all that kind of thing and just know how to access them. But it seems like a thing that we would need to generalize because it seems common.
Yeah.
So just like a way to solve that kind of a problem. Also fixed that click bug I was talking about last episode with the bezel, with adding the bezel and then basically accurately tracking the click within the kind of scaled game within the bezel, because the client doesn't have any idea what the bezel is there. It just takes the raw XY and sends it off to the game server. The game server has to know that translated XY within the thing. And I like don't know the math, but I figured out the math. Like I just I just had a moment where I was like, what if I just do like 100 minus the X factor of the, anyway, I did math. I can't explain it. I don't even remember it, but it's in the thing, fixed the click scaling. So that's all there. Nice. I also updated the bezel size. So it's stored in the config instead of being kind of hard coded all throughout the thing. So you can kind of do a consistent bezel pretty easily now. So yeah, the bezel stuff is almost ready. Or I think I sent out a PR for it. So it is ready for review. Click City stuff, like I said, yeah, just added the critical stuff in the stats menu and kind of hit that little problem with the updating text stuff. I also started working on versioning in a serious way. So like I did that initial look into it before where it was just like, oh, I can add multiple versions of a dependency. You can. So realize the client is a bundled thing up with Webpack. Therefore, it needs to import every version of the Squish engine, the Squish dependency.
Every supported version.
Yeah, every version to bundle it in. And then it needs to get a message from the game server to say what version this is so it can programmatically switch out to that other version and say, okay, well now Squish is equal to this version and now Squish is equal to this, which works. I tried that and it works. Except like the game renders, but the clicks don't work at all. So I don't know what the hell.
Okay.
I broke something in there. And I don't know what it is. It might be some weird, crazy, deeply core problem of what I'm doing with all these different versions of dependencies and something. But yeah, basically made some progress there. It is possible, I think, to do what we want to do. It's kind of maybe not the way that JavaScript is supposed to work. So it feels like I'm breaking something, but it does work. So
nice
for the most part.
Hooray.
But yeah, that's it for my home game stuff. A lot of little things.
Hey, that was also mine for home game stuff. So ready to move on to song of the week.